So dudes, welcome to the first how-to video on Overwatch. I'll be covering Moira in this first installment, and here are my stats, even though they don't really matter. I'll be going over her kit, how to utilize it, her possible synergies, and her overall playstyle. Moira sits in the support category and can dish out a high level of AoE healing whilst also dishing out a surprising amount of damage. Her primary fire is a Succ spray. By using Moira's left click, which you should rebind to your right click, a projectile spray is launched, also known as Piss. It can heal multiple teammates at once for 65 healing a second, and is quite useful when used on grouped up targets to maximise how efficient you are with a spray. The range on a spray is also a lengthy 15 meters, which people think is much shorter due to the visual animation in first person. It also has a lingering effect of 65 healing across 4 seconds when you stop using the spray, which I'll cover later on. It also takes 9 seconds to empty your entire spray from full to empty, which doesn't seem that long, but that's where the sucking part comes in. Moira's Succ deals 50 DPS on a singular target, also refilling your spray bar. Ideally, you would want to be using your Succ on enemies and not shields in order to gain ult charge, refill your spray bar, and regen health at 20 a second. But contrary to popular belief, the Succ isn't that bad at shield break, especially against a finite shield such as Reinhardt's. So if there's nothing to shoot at, don't just stare at the shield. Her Succ ability has a longer range than her spray, ranging at 20 meters, which is actually the same length as Widow's Hook. Moira's second ability is her Spooky Step. This makes Moira invulnerable and invisible to all effects for just under a second. She also receives a 250% speed buff, managing to cover over 10 meters of distance. But wait, there's more. It also cleanses all status and damage over time effects, so Nade, Dynamite, Discord, Mayfreeze, or any other defect will not persist when Moira exits her Spooky Step. And you can also avoid both Zarya Grab and Sickness Flux. Being on a 6-second cooldown is arguably the best ability in our kit. The last normal ability is our Bouncy Boi. This is basically the ball version of our Succ spray, providing additional damage or healing when needed. You only really want to be using this to gain additional ult charge, which you wouldn't have gotten by using the Succ spray. Tossing the damage version past shields or using it on tanks that are critical HP would be high value. Moira's ult, Coalescence.
3 niggas!
It's a 30 meter range beam that deals 70 DPS and 140 HPS simultaneously. Likewise to Moira's spray, this can cleave teammates or enemies and last 8 seconds. Moira also receives a considerable self heal of 50 a second as well as a 50% increase in movement speed, allowing for aggressive plays. The first basic concept you need to nail down is balancing the Succ spray. You need to be balancing a decent amount of damage without becoming a DPS Moira and conversely a heal bot. There's no given ratio of damage to healing, but if you're pulling off significantly less damage than healing, I'd seriously reconsider the usage of your kit. You should be using Moira's Succ surgically, as 200 damage in the correct place at the correct time will always be more useful than 1000 damage onto shields or just trash damage. Learning how to apply this sense of surgical precision, a somewhat decent level of awareness searching for squishy targets is needed, though you'll learn this over time. I also want to bring attention to min-maxing our primary fire, which is essential for the higher ranks. Your team's playstyle is integral in determining how fast your Coalescence charges, from 30 seconds to 2 minutes. To explain this in depth more, imagine both teams are running Sigma Orisa double shield with May Reaper and Lucio Moira. Telling your Lucio to stay on speed boost allows you to make the most of Moira's passive healing, as well as shot calling for your team to take more poke damage, which allows multiple teammates to be cleaved with your spray. Whilst this happens, actively look out for owl position enemies, which allow you to take advantage of Moira's damage and healing simultaneously. When your tanks start to take damage, bouncing your Bouncy Bois off of multiple walls or in long straight lines allow you to maximize value. Great spots for Bouncy Bois would be on Iconwald, Volskaya, Oasis and Hanamura. This all may sound a bit pedantic, but when you're past 3500, small callouts to your teammates go a long way in achieving the win condition of your team. You can see this by the background footage I've been using from Action Esports' video on Violet's mastery of Moira, where he is constantly ahead of Crimson's ult charge in the mid-fight. Back to Moira's kit, with a Spooky Step, there's no secret Kim Jong-un rocket ship nuke into space logic of using this ability. Simply put, if you're close to dying, use it. Otherwise, use it aggressively for Coalescence, or you can learn how to fade jump. Check out this subreddit if you want to learn more about how and where to do this. Now onto some common mistakes most Moira players make. Wasting heal orb when you can tap your spray and throw a damage orb which achieves the same outcome. More subconscious mistakes would be using fade for no reason, a lack of awareness to heal more than just your tanks, and overusing the spray to heal 200 HP targets, keeping in mind it is a projectile. These mistakes you can fix in a day and are even abundant in the higher ranks. More complex mistakes and tips are with positioning and Coalescence usage. Positioning strongly relies upon your team composition that you're playing, but for the most part, playing behind your main tank and within range of your off support is the ideal place to play in. Despite this, mistakes with positioning are not what you do, but what you don't do. Off angles are key places to flag out and waste the most important resource in Overwatch, attention. If you decide to pick an off angle, only do it once in a team fight as you are unscouted. Good off angles to use would be Rialto first point attack, any side of Iconwald first point, or Junkertown first point choke by the Mega or on the high ground. If you do this correctly, A well-placed damage orb plus Succ will make the enemy visit the gulag in exactly 2 seconds if they don't receive any healing. In terms of using Coalescence, the most basic tip is to always use a damage orb just before you ult in order to kill any opposing DPS in under 2 seconds. Most of the time you want to be using Coalescence aggressively to punish bad enemy positioning or to create a ton of space for your tanks in the higher ranks. You can check out this VOD review I did of a Diamond Moira player whose main goal and problem was Coalescence usage. However, Coalescence can be used as a Warmark Transcendence in combination with Healing Orb, which does 2/3 the amount of healing as Trans. Here's an example of an attempted defensive Coalescence. And here's an example of an attempted aggressive Coalescence. Most of the time, you'll be using Coalescence aggressively. If you do, don't tunnel vision on the enemy team while leaving your tanks unattended, and keep a track of CC stuns that punish your positioning. A bit of coordination from your teammates to capitalize the space you create will maximize value obtained, and since it's a cheap ultimate, you're not really losing out on too much if you do lose a teamfight. Talking about coordination, team combo is very much dependent on how much value Moira gets in the higher elos. There's 3 main combos you'll see: Brawl, Poke and Dive. They all have different sub-genres, but they stick to one general playstyle. Moira actually doesn't do badly in any of these compositions. As I mentioned earlier, you can clearly see that she's used in Poke at the highest levels and not exclusively to Brawl only. Despite this, the manner your team plays on each composition on each different map is what really matters. Violet managed to receive more value than Crimson because of how the Shock are playing in spite of the mirror, hence why raw compositions suit Moira best, as you're guaranteed to have your Ryan take damage in CQC, whereas Poke relies upon range, damage and versatile shielding, in which Vap Zen or Bat Break is more suited to. Dive is a tricky comp for Moira and very map dependent. If staging and diving from high ground to low ground, she does well, while maps such as Dorado, Second Point, she'll struggle to find any value from the low ground as teamfights and ranged Poke normally takes place above where she plays. Overall, stick to Moira and Brawl and Poke and think twice about picking up a dive. If you keep losing teamfights when running Poke v Poke mirrors, consider swapping. The penultimate bit of this video is Moira synergy without other support. I'll go through this bit quickly as I don't want this video to be too long, which is why I've been speaking so fast throughout the entire video. Moira pairs best with Lucio to provide the speed to complement the healing that steamrolls most teams, although this doesn't mean too much in ranked as Moira doesn't really have any bad pairings anyway. Moira Brig is great against anti-dive and provides high healing, but there is no defensive ult and your main tank can't kite. Moira Mercy is specific for enabling a DPS pocket such as an Echo pocket or a Pharah pocket, whilst providing a high level of healing to your tanks, but there's no utility to enable anyone else. Moira Zen provides high damage and high healing with the defensive ultimate, but Dive will dismantle Moira Zen as Moira would expend half her spray trying to heal through a Winston barrier, which is detrimental to the Zen and to her tanks. Moira Honor and Moira Bap is simply not optimized and lacks utility by overcompensating for healing, hence why Lucio Honor and Zen Bap are used instead of Moira. With that being said, Moira with any combination of the other heroes shouldn't really be a deciding factor to whether you win your games below Master, and if you want Honor, Zen or Bat main being Dove, Moira is a great alternative. I'd also like to mention that I think Moira Mercy will be especially powerful due to the addition of Echo into the game. Echo is a lot more powerful when having a Mercy pocket as her ultimate is possibly one of the best ultimates in the game, especially at lower elos. Moira would also be great to aid the tanks whilst not being too susceptible to dive heroes. Moira Honor and Moira Bap also still has its strengths. For instance, if one healer goes down, you still have a main healer providing a better backbone than if an offer support were to be solo healing. It also allows Honor and Bap to be more aggressive with their abilities due to the high level of healing, so in essence, you can decide the trade-offs you want to make. The last bit of the video will be going over small bits of Moira Tech. Firstly, the Orbiter Fade Cancel.
The power of destruction.
Secondly, tap Moira's Succ since you gain back your spray bar faster. Thirdly, Orb into Coalescence.
Surrender to my will.
Fourthly, jump at the end of Moira's Fade. And lastly, melee off the Coalescence. Finally, I want to leave this video off with this quote from Jane. One person doing something dumb is a mistake, 2 people doing something dumb is a strategy. If you play Moira, don't just be a brain-dead heal bot who doesn't actively seek opportunities to take the game into their own hands. But conversely, make sure you have a somewhat coordinated plan with your teammates in order to not come across as a dumbass to the rest of your entire team, whether it be an Orisa halt, tracking CC abilities, or your tanks pushing forward. Even if it fails, you'll learn from that strategy as Jane will call it, so don't be afraid to take calculated risks. If you're in the higher elos, don't be deterred to play Moira even if you get flamed for it, which every single Moira main on this earth has experienced. And that's really all you need to know about the Sucky Scientist. If you enjoyed, please make sure to subscribe, comment and like the video since it really helps out the channel. If this video helped to raise your IQ, perhaps consider sharing it with your friends to also raise theirs. Big shout out to Gregor who heavily inspired this video. Until next time.
night, girl. I'll see you tomorrow.